Hey everybody, thanks for checking out my latest video. Hi peeps. Wanted to go over DraftKings ReignMakers Week 9 recap, including news, lineups that won, some of the results, some of my results, buys and sells that I've done. Also looking at some potential bargains that you might want to target or players you might want to target for the rest of the season. And we are, heading into Week 10, so we still got till week 18, so it's a lot of contests left to go. Now, I'd say the biggest news probably is that they DraftKings took off the card prizes for the low end finishes. So it starts with the cash now, and so it's harder basically to get something out of the contest in general. But on the so take that for what it's worth. I was pretty discouraged last week, but then this week I did pretty well, decent. So I'm back encouraged again and not ready to liquidate my cards or anything like that. So just real quick, here's what won the core and rare fiat contest. So it's $5,000 winner and a $10,000 winner. They actually had the same score, but the lineups were slightly different. They both had Fields, Mixon, Devontae Adams, and Walker, but he had Claypool, and this person, I always say he, but it could be a woman, had Claypool, and this one had Hollins, but they actually scored the same. So 178. And that's actually no stack on either. However, they did have a game stack here, like one player from the Miami, one player from, oh, I'm sorry, they did have a stack. Claypool's on Chicago now, isn't he? Wow, I missed that. Here they had two Vegas players stacked. So they were actually mild stacks that came in. Now, as far as these players who won, if you remember last week, a couple of the bigger contests were won by pretty small fry. It may have been people who just started ReignMakers or hadn't spent a whole lot, and they hit pretty big, which is encouraging to those of us who are relatively smaller players, that we can still win contests even though there's a lot of whales out there. So this person that won 5,000, I'm going off their floor prices from Lucky Trader, just to approximate, and they're actually changing, and people are probably buying cards with their winnings, but they had about 4 to 5,000 spent, 288 cards, decent amount. But this person that won the rare for 10,000 only had about $700 worth of cards and only 75 cards. So they hit pretty well there. That may have been why they had Mac Hollins in there. But that's pretty impressive, and that shows what can happen when you have the right combination of players. And the same thing happened last week with a couple contests. So the big $100,000 one was a higher score, 180.6. This one had no stacks, but it did have a player on each team from the Miami Bears shootout. Little less emphasis on stacks this week because when you get like a quarterback like Fields, who's more of a running quarterback that doesn't pass a lot, that can put less emphasis on stacks, obviously. And also, I'd say the three big key players this week were Fields, Mixon, and Adams, which fortunately I owned all of them, multiple of him and a couple of him. So that came in at 180. Now this person won $100,000, and their floor price on their cards was showing at only about 7,000, and they only owned about 82 cards. So probably, I assume many on the elite, maybe some rares. Of course, if you're just doing 5-man entries, that's 16 entries? My brain's not working right now. Yeah, 16 entries, 16 teams, something like that, which actually is a lot if you have good 5-man lineups and not entering deep contests. So the winner of the deep court was 231 points. They had Tua and Tyreek Hill stacked, which has been a really good one this year, obviously. I think that may be the only one, even from games. That person only has a floor value on theirs of $400 and only 87 cards, so that's a small fry. That's 2 small fry this week and 1 relatively small fry that won big prizes. The rare one for 3,000 is a bigger one, medium-sized whale type thing, or on the way. It depends on how you define it. There's people that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you want to see that, check one of my previous videos or look at luckytrader.com. That person only had 209 points, so quite a bit lower. They had the Cousins Jefferson stack, which I had that going in the rare. Didn't come in for me like this, though. Then they had 2 Bengals, and they had 2 Seattle. So quite a few mini stacks going on there, which is sort of the deep. I think you would tend to want to be more stack oriented and maybe looking at high scoring games, shootouts, individual teams, that type of thing. And I don't think either of those had late additions, because from the late Sunday, well, that Kelsey may have been a late addition. But the other one was New Orleans, Baltimore. They didn't have any on there, it looks like. The Elite Deep Contest pays 10,203. Again, pretty low totals on these compared to the Fiats this week. Pretty medium to large size account, 1,500 cards. So they can enter a whole lot of core and rare lineups each week. That just takes a lot of time, unfortunately. But it is fun, I'm sure. They had the Allen Diggs stack, which is the most expensive stack in the game. Now, Allen is hurt. We'll have to see how it plays out. They also had the Bengals running back and kicker, which is a kind of a good combo to do, running back and kicker. They also had the New England running back and defense, which is another good combo to do, or can be. And they had a Philly stack. So they were pretty much stacked up across the board there. So the cutoffs for the lowest prizes. First off, the number of spots decreased because they got rid of the prize packs, and I believe these numbers are all right, but you might want to double check. But so now the lowest prizes are cash, and you can see that they went up a little bit here to even get up from last week, about flat on that. Notice the Elite was 20 points lower. You only needed 72 on that to cash $75. I think some of these numbers might be slightly off, but I'm a little tired today. Sorry. But I had a rare deep that was over 100 and didn't cash, which was frustrating because like $20 extra on my returns each week counts to me. The core deep only required 96 this week. And the Elite Deep tends to be stronger and has tended to be stronger over recent weeks. But not a massive jump, but you're looking at getting close to 100 points to cash. Here, 125-ish probably, which isn't that much when you have that many more players, honestly. So, yeah, I had this one wrong because it was a Bears stack. And there was a 1-1. But these are the totals that have won the core Fiat for 5,000 over the season. A couple real high ones at 190, but all the rest basically between 150 and 170, 180-ish. So you want to be targeting that 150, 160. If your guys have a boom day, that'll get you there. This one had a Vegas stack on the rare, and then the contest. I didn't have week 1 or 2. I had no stack on that. I'm questioning my own information now, but that was hot. 180, 187, pretty high totals, 2 weeks in a row. Now the core deeps have been 209 to about 230 in general to win those. So my results. I cashed in all these. I didn't really do many showdowns. I sort of put more focus on the regular contests and the deep from the showdowns this week. I also put a little less focus on stacks. And I was up, 100 plus most of the day, but still ended up winning about 80. I had a pretty good rare lineup, and I had 5 core lineups over 100. So that's actually, and another one close to 100. So that's actually these 3 are deeps, but I had 4 over 100, and that's the most I've had there on Fiats in any given week. And the deeps I missed out on a rare deep cash barely too. So I went about 80 that week. This week, no cards. They've stopped doing the cards for now. So these are my weekly totals. That puts me around $1,000 for the season. Of course, I had the one big hit, very close to being I think $1,000 winner or $1,500. And then this week I could have won $500 if I put it in the main contest, not single entry, but still doing pretty well. I was discouraged by that $15 last week, very discouraged with what's going on in DraftKings. But this week came out better. So look how many weeks are left plus the playoffs. There's a lot left, and guaranteed prize money each week. My rare one that hit 131.5, that was either my highest or second highest rare fiat ever. I had Devontae Adams and Metcalf. That was the key. I own 4 Devontae Adams, so I was pretty happy about that rebound he had, and I owned a couple mix-ins. Didn't really have any stacks here at all. And Stafford was just such a dud. Raheem Mostert probably doesn't need to be on that tier for me. Metcalf was decent. But if Stafford had come in, higher, I would have made it even more, done better on that, maybe close to $100. As far as buys and sells, I haven't done much action over the past week. Ahead of the showdown, my limit orders filled on a Philly defense and actually a Sanders running back, and he did have a monster game. These are the cores. I get decent profits on a percentage basis, not on a real dollar basis. What kind of sucks is they didn't buy my other Philly guys who didn't go off as much. They bought the Sanders who did, but and getting rid of defenses for a profit is always good. The only card I bought was a Palmer from the Chargers because I have a couple of Herberts, and then with Allen and Mike Williams out, needed that. As far as my DFS, I did better than last week. Pretty decent. 3 good finishes, just not enough to really hit the big money. 53rd out of 4,000, 73rd out of 12,000, and then on a showdown on FanDuel, 22nd out of 4,800. So was getting there, just getting out of that top 10, top 5 is where the big money is. But those are pretty good finishes, in my view. As far as bargains and targets, now do your own research. There's stuff's fluctuating, changing all the time, what players you like. But I'm sort of focused here on what for the rest of the season, not just this week. And trying to look for like the top tier players who are non-superstars. Now, you may not have guys in these groups, you may have guys in these groups, or you may have more. But if we're talking about quarterbacks, non-superstar, and hopefully I didn't leave any big names off here or ones who I thought were superstars, because like I said, I'm a little tired today, but Tua, Kyler Murray, Fields, and Dak Prescott, to me looks like, and just looking at a couple sites that do rest of the season projections, looks like the 4, also Cousins and Smith possibly. And remember, Deshaun Watson is coming back eventually, but I wouldn't buy him too early, obviously. Now, the numbers in parentheses by these are buys, okay? Because now it is something to consider, because the people who've already had a buy, which are highlighted in green, are going to have one extra game than the ones who haven't yet, which are in white. The ones who are on a buy are red, on a buy this week. Then I put down the core, the rare, and the elite lowest floor prices, regardless of set. And then sort of highlight the ones that look like a better deal. So on the core, Kyler for 13, just compared to the others, it's not a big dollar amount difference, but it is a difference. And then Dak at 9. On the rares, Dak's cheaper again at 47. Also the Kyler looks a bit there. And then on the elites, Dak's cheaper again. It depends on how much, $20 or $60 means to you. But looking there, it depends on, how you would group these guys going forward. If you think they'll be standouts, if you think Dak will fall within this group of being among the top superstars, then he's the cheapest again there. On the running backs, and they're sort of in order. This one, there's a couple off, and you may have different orders. We've got Etienne, Kamara, Walker, Jacobs, Mixon, Stevenson, Cook, and Pierce. There are other ones such as Jones, Swift, Sanders, Pollard, Taylor even. Jones is a little banged up. Keep an eye on that. Swift has been banged up. So Mixon and Stevenson are on buys this week, so you are going to miss that game from them. But Jacobs, Cook, and Pierce have already had their buy games. Cook has been removed from a superstar. So on the cores, the Mixon at 10, the Cook at 9, I would say, would be my favorites. Here it sort of depends again between Kyler Fields and Tua, who you like. On the rares, Kamara is quite a bit cheaper, at least on this floor price. So that would be a good one if you compare it to those guys around him. And on the elites, actually, Walker is a good deal at this price compared to the others. And he has less cards, I believe, being a rookie. Also, Pierce is just very, very cheap on that elite as well. Moving on to wide receivers, and actually only one tight end. Again, this order and this grouping, you can make your own decisions, but looking at non-superstars, Diggs, Brown. Of course, if Allen's injured, might have a couple flat weeks on that. I actually need to check who their backup is again. Diggs, A.J. Brown. St. Brown is too high on here, but Lamb, Hopkins should be there probably. Waddle, Cooper, Debo, and then Higgins, but Chase is coming back potentially, so cautious on that. You might actually want to look at when Chase is coming back. Look at him. Kelsey, the only tight end currently. Some people who, there's a bunch of names that may have come close to this, or you may think could be on this. Metcalf, Andrews, Schuster, Smith-Schuster, Olave, Lockett, Devontae Smith, Evans, Kirk, Ayuk, Godwin, Goddard as a tight end, Davis, Moore, and there's others. So when you're looking, and so this tends to be all wide receiver ones, except for Waddle. So it doesn't have like Devontae Smith, and then you got the Metcalf Lockett type thing. But Miami's guys have both been so strong, and then also Higgins and Chase, but that's in a bit of a flux. So looking at the core ones, Lamb. So these Dak and Lamb are underpriced. They're off this week, or they were off last week. I'm sorry. They have a game this week. So on the running backs, only 3 of them have an extra game, so to speak. And then these 2 will. But on the wide receivers, quite a few have already had their bye. Diggs, A.J. Brown, St. Brown, Lamb, Cooper, Debo. Now, Debo, you got the whole McCaffrey thing. And Kelsey. Higgins is off this week. Chase is injured. So that means Hopkins and Waddle have buys coming up. So you're going to miss a game from them. They're the only 2. And Dak and Lamb are cheap on all these. I'm not really 100% sure why, but just keep it in mind. So that at $8 would probably be the pick of the group to me. On the core, on the rare, Amari Cooper at 32, just being cheaper than these, and Lamb again. You could also maybe look at A.J. Brown across the board. He's one of those guys that, seems to put up monster weeks, and then not as much, but in a way those can be better for GPP type tournaments. If he puts up 40, then he has 2 10-point weeks, because that 41 can win you big money. On the elites, look at how expensive that Diggs is. I mean, it's the same way on here, but it's twice as much as a lot of these. Anyway, Brown here at 645, 650. Lamb again. Amari Cooper again. Being cheap on a relative basis. Just some food for thought. Trying to focus on the top tier on superstars, or the top 2 tiers, so to speak. If you're looking to boost things going forward. Of course, there's always uncertainty with these players. All right, thanks for checking out my video. Appreciate it. Thanks for viewing, liking, and subscribing, and commenting. If you do want to sign up, my DraftKings referral code is on the screen. I also have a Dapper account under @KentuckyWildcats, and you can actually tip me NBA, TopShot, or NFL moments there, all-day moments if you like that. I'm also playing Sorare NBA basketball now. Maybe I'll do a video on that. I've actually won a couple limited cards already and spent very little on that. It was money I already had in there from Sorare soccer. And I have a few MLB cards on there as well. But that's actually shaping up to be pretty fun. There's the whole question of prizes and cashing out, though, which isn't as good as ReignMakers. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video, and keep an eye peeled for my next video coming up here probably in a couple days.